Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with the weekly comic book roundup, and we've got quite the haul this week, including a holdover from all the way back the beginning of last month. So we're going to kick things off with Marauders number 2. So where we left off in Marauders number 1. Kate Pryde, who is aka Shadowcat, it turns out is unable to use the Krakoan gate system. And upon hearing about the fact that one of the gates in Russia is being guarded by Russian military and people aren't able to access it, she hops in a boat she appropriated, along with Storm and Iceman, and they head over there. Along the way, they discover that Pyro was about to steal the boat. And so the four of them beat down the Russian soldiers and help get the mutants through the portal. Also, in Taiwan, Bishop is investigating claims from a woman that her husband went through the gate and never appeared. Or claims that her husband went through the gate and disappeared, though the island has no record of her husband having gone through the gate at all. And things seem a bit fishy there. Also, it appears that Kate will be helping will be working with part of Hellfire Corporation's black market, getting Krakoan drugs to currently non-allied countries, as well as helping mutants get out of non-allied countries. So we start off. We start off with naval intelligence memo explaining satellite surveillance of both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans has revealed that there are several sea vessels sanctioned by Krakoa. The Marauders video went viral and is generating interest from mutants who cannot access the Krakoan transit system. We are working on the theory that the ship containing Pride and the two Omegas is a flashy show of force meant to draw eyes, and that there may be other ships in use that we are not up on yet. It's also possible that a submarine cove was formed in the Pacific. It's been difficult to arrange clear satellite images as an unnaturally occurring cloud cover has been obscuring our satellites. Storm has been seen distributing hard drives containing exfiltration methods and ways to safely contact mutants around the world. We've recovered and examined one such device and found it to be what she proclaims it is, and it does not appear to be a Trojan horse for any malware. We've seen some evidence that mutants in Liberia are being detained and ransomed for fast-tracked access to the Krakoan medicine. This will likely pose a mutant response. After the Russian video, the Marauders sailed for Tokyo, Japan. Along the way, they scuttled a whaling vessel. There were no fatalities if you don't count the whales that were dead when the mutants arrived. If Krakoan business was conducted in Tokyo, it occurred in whiskey bars, gay dance clubs, and an underground casino. We have agents embedding in those locations now in case the mutants return. I'd like, redacted, to let me know how much we are able to dip into the slush fund for this kind of activity. Tokyo is very expensive. The next evening, the Marauders commandeered a pleasure craft that was chartered for a birthday party. It was clear that something had agitated the mutants and that this was not a planned operation. As of this moment, the hijacked pleasure craft is in dogged pursuit of a cargo ship registered out of Madripoor. It's unlikely we'll be able to determine ownership of the vessel, as most Madripoorian flags are flown to obfuscate ownership. Also, while we are not sanctioned to operate within U.S. borders, we are dependent on the FBI, and they've been too slow to reciprocate even basic information. We are still awaiting a list of confirmed Krakoan gates within the United States. Frankly, we can't afford to be playing this kind of catch-up. So the issue... After that, it turns out that the Stepford Cuckoos, all 5 of which are back, obviously, after the Resurrection Protocols. But they are having a a conference with Emma Frost, who was about to have a meeting with Black King Sebastian Shaw, a man she is, in all honesty, not too fond of. And in fact, most recently deposed from the Hellfire Club when she took over, when she briefly took over. And it turns out that going over the books, there is a lot of red ink in Sebastian's ledger, or in Shaw's ledger. And he's trying to. He gets a suggestion for the Red Throne, and while they're talking, the vessel with the Madriporean flag that was mentioned in the memo is caught up to by the Marauders. Turns out it's a vessel being captained by none other than Batroc the Leaper. And over the course of the fight between Batroc, his men, and the Marauders, Batroc and Kate have parlay. They have a parlay, and like, hey, look, you know, when she corrects him, when he calls her Kitty and she corrects him with Kate, he was, hey, okay, Kate, cool, all right, fine. It pretty clear that, yeah, we were hired by Shaw, but the difference is that the shipment they've got is not going towards its intended location. And, in fact, a shipment has already been sent to that location instead. And the boat was scuttled. And then in Taipei, the Marauders promptly sell the ship that they commandeered. And that's when they get the news about Xavier. Iceman is optimistic, saying that the Five can bring him back. Kate goes into a tattoo parlor with a bottle of whiskey, and her and Pyro both get tattoos. Bishop declines, as, well, he already has one. Storm's not the tattoo type, and Iceman explains there's almost nowhere he could put it on his body that he wouldn't see it through his eyes, but maybe someday something small. And so Kate appropriates a coat from the establishment. Okay, so Pyro's tattoo was basically a black skull that starts on his upper lip and goes upward. And so Gateway arrives in Taipei and helps teleport the Marauders to the Marauder, their ship. When Pyro realizes he gets to live aboard this boat, he states it's the best evidence that he's still dead. And we get the confirmation that yes, the offer of the Red Throne was made to Kate Pride by Emma Frost, who comes in looking just awesome. Red Monarch. We also get a rundown of the Hellfire Trading Company. Currently, Lord Imperial the Lord Imperial title is vacant. I would not be surprised if that goes it would not entirely surprise me if either Magneto or Xavier ended up with that. Though there's actually a former Lord Imperial involved with the X-Men as well. And so he's also a possibility. White Monarch is Emma Frost, the White Bishop is Christian Frost, and the White Knight is a vacant title. Then the Black Monarch is Sebastian Shaw, and the Red Monarch is Captain Kate Pryde. Okay. Well, yeah, I missed this earlier, but the tattoo that Kate got was "Hold Fast." But it appears next issue we will we will meet the Black Bishop. Alright, that is where that issue ends. So we'll be moving on to Excalibur, number 2. So where we left off with Excalibur. Betsy Braddock was given the amulet of Captain Britain by her brother, who had been possessed by Morgan Le Fay. Some mystical feedback from the gate going to Otherworld caused Rogue to end up in a flowery cocoon. And comatose, I might add. And there's a coven of mages known as Coven Akaba. So the issue begins with a flashback to the 4th century BCE, the English Channel, explaining that Apocalypse was the first of his kind. However, there's a misconception that he was he's a common ancestor of all mutants, as others appeared all over time. So there were 2 children that 2 twins, and when together, they could never lose their way. However, while the direction was perfect, the seaworthiness of their ship was not, and so they died. Apocalypse did not save them, but he did mark their location. Now, I would say between the events of Marauders number 1 and Marauders number 2, and I would also therefore with X-Force, Kate Pryde has lent the use of the initial boat that she had, ship that she had, to help get Jubilee, Gambit, Rogue, and Captain Britain to the old Excalibur lighthouse. They are attacked briefly by Selkies, which I know I've heard of Selkies elsewhere. The Selkies appear to be mostly focused on on Betsy, so she gets them away from the ship and begins fighting them, but they can't walk on land. So, while on the island, they arrive on an island, and while walking about, Betsy discovers a group of druids walking by, who tell her I'll show her a little bit. A young woman named Mariana Stern, who used to be in a coven that was linked to Morgan Le Fay, has since joined Clan Akaba, or the Akaba Coven. So the lighthouse has been destroyed, but a new one has formed in its place. There's also, and when it formed, it's basically explained that this new lighthouse was basically the marking, Apocalypse's marking of where the two young mutants died back in the 4th century BCE. At the lighthouse, everyone turns in. Jubilee has a dream where Apocalypse is there with her baby Shogo, and so she says she's got to go back to the island and get Shogo. Captain Britain has a dream where a fiery wolf with a sword comes upon her, brings her to a statue of Apocalypse. And when she awakes, Jubilee is there with Shogo. Apparently Shogo really likes Betsy's hair. The Druids return and Betsy chats with them, but at the same time, Clan Akaba also arrives. And so the Druids and Captain Britain fight them off, along with Jubilee and Gambit. Apocalypse offers to help Psylocke, or not Psylocke, Captain Britain, but she did turn him down. However, he just says, screw it, I'm going to help anyway. Plus, he explains that the longer Captain Britain is under Morgan Le Fay, or the longer that Brian Braddock is under Morgan Le Fay's spell, the harder it will be to break him free. And so, Apocalypse says, hey, look, I'll defend the lighthouse. You guys go to Otherworld and free Brian Braddock. So he sends Captain Britain, Gambit, and Jubilee, as well as Shogo. And when they arrive, Shogo was turned into a giant dragon. Because that's just... Alrighty, moving on to Deadpool #1. And yeah, I know, we just had one of these about a year or so ago, but, well, yeah. I think it was probably less than a year ago. But, anyway. So we begin, Deadpool is fighting a monster and gets ripped in half. That's the first page. Turns out he's fighting a monster on Staten Island. Another monster comes up to him and helps him get back next to his lower half. Turns out the monster that just tore him in half is the king of monsters. And the one who helped him is Lord Chamberlain of the King of Monsters. We get a little flashback. Learning that it was yesterday... The day before was Deadpool's birthday. No one really came to celebrate, but yeah, he still had a bit of a party. And he got hired by a guy to kill named Blaylock to take care of the King of Monsters. And I mean, Deadpool's just gonna say, "Hey, look, I mean, it's Staten. You know, you don't need to pay. You don't need to pay me to do this because, like, you know, they're monsters. In normal people areas. You know, an Avenger or 3 will show up to save the day eventually. I mean, It is Staten Island, so it might take a while, but, soon enough. But he's being offered gold. So it's like, oh, like bricks of gold. So, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm in. Let's do this. I'm gonna kill me a monster, man. Yeah. Turns out there was a deal made centuries ago between monster kind and some desperate humans, which would allow them to have Staten Island. Well, they're actually giving in on this. It's being fought in the courts, but it's going to take a while. So, Deadpool is going to regroup and figure out what's going on when Elsa Bloodstone shows up, also looking to kill the King of Monsters. And this time around, the King of Monsters bites Deadpool's arm off. But he explains to Elsa as they fall that the arm that got bitten off, well, it had 40 grenades in it. And his other arm had the pins to 40 grenades. And, well, turns out if you kill the King of the Monsters, you become the King of the Monsters. So Deadpool is now King of the Monsters. And he's learned, various other monsters are coming up, including, a weird bird monster and a common zombie, snowman type monster, the former King's Honor Guard. Yeah, Deadpool's not really digging this whole King of the Monsters thing because he doesn't get to do anything fun. Gwenpool then shows up, actually kind of terrified about the fact that she's probably about to just vanish from continuity, and as such wants to leave Jeff, her land shark, with Deadpool. So His Highness goes and gets some ice cream for him and Jeff and Lord Chamberlain of Monsters, Lord Chamberlain Bellis. However, when Lord Chamberlain Bellis returns home, he is promptly attacked and killed by none other than Kraven the Hunter, who is actually quite happy with the current state of affairs on Staten Island because it becomes a perfect monster hunting ground for Kraven to prove his worth. And that is where the issue comes to its close. Well, I guess not the worst start for Deadpool. It's an odd start, but hey, if Deadpool didn't have an odd start, would it really be Deadpool? Okay, so I mentioned there was a holdout from the beginning of last month. And so here we are, finally with a copy of Absolute Carnage, the Immortal Hulk. Alright, so this takes place largely quite literally right after issue 3 of Absolute Carnage, wherein the Venom symbiote jumped from Eddie Brock to Bruce Banner when Eddie decided it was more important to try and protect Dylan, his son, and Norman Osborn Jr. from Carnage-possessed Norman Osborn. So we begin with We begin in Bruce's head. In fact, most of this is in Bruce's head, and it's him talking with the symbiote, who is now also in part in his head. But he explains what's been going on. Um, and he hears about the mass grave desecration from the beginning of the story, which including the body of General Thunderbolt Ross. Now, because of who Thunderbolt Ross at one point was, the Red Hulk, Banner figures this was probably someone trying to get to me. Well, you know what? I think I'm gonna I'll make sure that everyone knows what's going on. We also get an interruption from the mental embodiment of the Joe Fixit persona of the Hulk. But cutting back to the flashback, turns out that so Banner asks Harpy, Betty Ross, formerly Red She-Hulk, if she could get him to New York, since she now has wings. Says, yeah, but it'll take a while. We'd be seen. And so he says, well, what if you folded me up small? And basically, she kills him. There's a reason it's called the Immortal Hulk. And so around nightfall, Harpy drops Banner off where he needs to be, and he turns into Hulk as he lands. Covers the mass grave. Hulk is not too enthused at the new edition, though. According to the headspace of Bruce Banner, Hulk is not too enthused with the new edition, but turns out Hulk made a call to the media, make sure it got some and the police to make sure it got some exposure. And then in New York, Banner catches the attention of Spider-Man, who at this point is looking for allies to help with everything. First, Spider-Man takes Bruce to one of his clothing stashes. Turns out Spider-Man has clothing stashes throughout the city, which is actually a really neat idea, and I am actually kind of surprised I never thought about that as a thing he would have before, but yeah, that's really neat. So, we get the short version. Space God Null. Carnage is back and wants to bring the Space Devil to Earth. Banner thinks maybe Space Null, Cosmic Satan, might be related to the one below all. In fact, to the symbiote, that perhaps Null is a facet of the one below all, or a creature it controls, something it works through. I'm not sure what another Hulk also interrupts with some comments, but. And then, They don't. The Hulks don't all agree with what's going on, but Banner is more than anything, more or less in charge. So Hulk becomes Venom Hulk. Like I said, it covered the whole conversation between Banner and Venom. The symbiote takes place over the span of seconds. Because, well, the mind's a funny place, you know? Anyway, moving on to Absolute Carnage, Captain Marvel. So you might recall a few months ago, at the end of an issue of Captain Marvel, there was a small backup story wherein Chewie, Captain Marvel's cat, gets attacked by seemingly Carnage-possessed rats. Well, we're going to pick up on that. So, we start off in space. Captain Marvel is in space, and she's got she has some surveillance cameras, so she can watch. She can keep an eye on Chewie when she's out of town and or off planet. Chewie's aware of these, and in fact, there's actually a panel with Chewie looking directly into the camera, like. Neighbor of hers also cat sits for Carol when necessary, and so the neighbor and Carol had to talk about portion control because there was one time where cat sitting occurred, and well, Chewie overate a bit, and yeah. So after fighting the cosmic monster that Carol's in space to fight, she checks the camera and it's not showing anything. So she gets back home, picks up her mail, trying to find Chewie, and, well, she finds Chewie. And so Chewie attacks Carol, even goes all flirking on her. She reminisces about the time that she yanked the Venom symbiote off of Matt Gargan back during the Siege of Asgard. And it worked once, but Matt Gargan wasn't a symbiote-possessed Flurkin. We get a brief... so Chewie swallows Carol whole. And she has a memory of fighting Venom with alongside Spider-Man. And she yanks the symbiote off of Mac, and it jumps onto her briefly. This was back during Siege Spider-Man. She eventually Carnage tells her what's going on because he's able to communicate through the extension of his symbiote that's wrapped around Chewie. So inside the pocket dimension, she fights Carnage. She eventually does win, and she manages to soon enough separate the symbiote from the Flurkin, and also hacks up Carol. She then flies in space with this piece of Carnage, and as it's wrapping itself around her, she kind of has a quick flare-up of her powers and destroys it. And with what's going on, she then takes Chewie over to Jessica Drew's, bringing her allergy tablets as well. I'm guessing Jessica's allergic to cats. And Carol's going to take care of, to join up with all the other heroes fighting against Carnage. So, that's where the issue ends. However, that's not where the Absolute Carnage story ends. We've got Absolute Carnage number 5 up next. Okay, where we left off. Carnage, actual Cletus Cassidy, beat Venom Hulk, going all mind bomb on him, pulled the Venom symbiote off of Hulk, and then combined it with the symbiote he was already wearing, making him even more powerful. And so Eddie Brock jumped into the Maker's machine. As it turns out, the machine wasn't destroying the various codexes. It was storing them. Why? No one knows, but it was. So Eddie has the various codexes slapped onto him, to make a patchwork suit. And he goes to stop Carnage. Alright, so we start off with actually a flashback. Long ago, Rikers Island Penitentiary. And it basically just shows when Eddie first met Cletus Cassidy. At the time, Cletus was in for 11 life sentences, and in fact, his most recent cellmate was led to number 11. Upon learning that his new cellmate is actually Eddie Brock, well, Cletus is actually kind of impressed. Maybe him and, because they're the same, But he says, no, I don't kill I don't slaughter innocents. I'm not insane. So, yeah, no. So Eddie is caught up to Carnage. The two of them are duking it out, and the fight's not going well. Norman Carnage has got the upper hand against Spider-Man. Miles Morales, Sleeper, Thing, Cap, Wolverine. They're all kind of being overrun a bit. And then the cavalry arrives in the whole form of Cloak, Dagger, Deadpool, Morbius, Deathlock, Captain Marvel, Iron Fist, Firestar, and Scream. Which actually does help turn the tide. We start to see this tide turn with the first major point is Spider-Man solidly knocks Norman Carnage out. The symbiote gets back up, goes after Dylan and Normie, and Dylan just looks at it, and whatever it is that's in Dylan gets loose a little bit. And he says he hates all this symbiote shit, and the Carnage symbiote is destroyed. And then Dylan passes out. But then Cletus and Eddie crash land right in front of the kids, and Cletus explains that now, with whatever happens, he wins. Because, you see, if Carnage kills the boy, takes the boy's codex, they can wake up God. If Venom, Eddie, kills Cletus, takes back the symbiote, then he completes the circle. Reconnect to the hive, wake up God. So, the way Carnage puts it is, I win, I win. I lose, I win. I kill your son, or you kill the world. And so Venom says, okay, fine. Fuck the world. And he re-kills Carnage, yanking the Grendel suit off of him. And Awakening Null, who sends all the Clintar out into space. And so, yeah, Null is now loose. Eddie and Pete have, yeah, hey, we're totally good. In fact, Eddie even says, hey, I owe you, seriously. And Peter does say, hey, whatever we are to each other for, right? And now, turns out Dylan heard Eddie refer to him as his son. And that is where the issue ends. Well, aside from an editorial by J. Jonah Jameson in the aftermath of the first Carnage story. And that's it for Absolute Carnage. Well, that's not it. I think we've still got an issue of Venom tie-in, and then we got some Aftermath issues as well. So, all right, that's it for this video. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal will be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.